don't know where the chat is, check on the bottom of your screen. There is a chat box. Click on that chat box. In the chat, I'd love for you all to tell us where you're calling in from, what kind of job you're looking for, or industry. And then sometime today, we would love for you to drop in your LinkedIn URL also. Since we can't be connecting in person, face-to-face right now, one of the great ways we can do this is utilizing tools like LinkedIn. And so if you drop your LinkedIn URL in there, then we can just click on it and connect directly to you on LinkedIn. And everybody on the call can connect with each other. So that's something that we like to do to get you all connecting with each other. We have a great day for you today. Fantastic speaker, some great hiring companies. And then at the end, I'll have a lot of resources for you. Sheila is going to go over some tech stuff for you. So Sheila, you want to pop on? She might still be getting some stuff going. Oh, there you are.
Good morning. How is everyone? I'm so glad that I see people in the chat, because that, like Jessica said, that's kind of the way we can connect in our virtual time. And I want to mention that you're also welcome to turn your video on. We love to see your smiles. And if you have a desktop that you're using instead of a phone or mobile device, you have some options of how you display the videos. You can choose just the speaker or more of us. You can play with where it's displayed. There's little icons on top of the area where the videos are that control how many and where they're displayed. So feel free to play with that. We are live on Facebook, so that is a good thing. Yes, it is cooperating, so that is a good thing. The other thing I want to tell you about today is we have the benefit of closed captioning service. So if you're in need of that, you can go ahead and snap a picture of this QR. It'll open a browser window, or you can go to a browser and type in that bit.ly/2021 Jan 28, and it should bring up the window. So thank you for the closed captioning service that provides that. And I think that might be all for right now. At the end, don't forget that we're going to do the breakout rooms. So be ready for that after the presentations are over. You can jot down questions or things you want to talk about with our hiring companies or for our coaches. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So again, as you get logged in this morning, go ahead and drop in the chat where you're calling in from, the type of career or industry that you are interested in, and then your LinkedIn URL. And with your LinkedIn URL, again, please make sure it's clickable. That means it shows up blue. Lawrence McGill just posted with his LinkedIn URL. So because it's blue, we can click on it and go directly to the profile and connect. And so the way you do that is just go out to, Sheila mentioned it, but to go out to your browser, click on your picture. That's the easiest way. When you log into LinkedIn, click on your picture, and then that URL up in the top browser search bar will give you the clickable URL. So just drop that in there, and then we will all connect together out on LinkedIn. All right, so our agenda today, we have Michael Seaver, Job Search Communications to Reach All Generations. We get this question all the time about people that are interviewing and interacting with people of different ages. There are 4 or 5 different generations in the workforce right now. And so how do you connect with all of those people? So Michael's going to walk us through some great content today. And then we have Cenlar FSB, JPMorgan Chase, and HonorHealth as our hiring companies today. We will close it out with some resources. And then around 10:30, 10:35, we will allow everyone the option to go off into different breakout rooms. And so you will be able to speak to our hiring companies. We have some awesome resources at the end with LinkedIn coaches, career coaches, resume writers, and more. And so you can just go talk to them and get some kind of one-on-one or group coaching, and they would love to help you. So we usually utilize this model in our face-to-face meetings, and we've been recently able to bring it to the virtual world with some updates that were done in the platform. So we're excited about that. Okay, so I'm so excited to introduce our good friend, Michael Seaver, who has been a longtime supporter of the Career Connectors program and our team. Michael is an award-winning executive coach, leadership consultant, author, and speaker. He's on a mission to unlock human potential to help people uncover and live their purpose and live a more meaningful and authentic life. On January 1st, he published I Know, a practical guide for awakening to what's within and finding work-life integration. On Michael's website, michaelseaver.com, you'll find over 200 blogs, hundreds of media features, free downloads, online courses, podcast episodes, and numerous video interviews. Please help me welcome our good friend, Michael Seaver.
Thank you, Jessica. Good morning, everyone. I am going to share my screen so you can follow along with today's presentation. So bear with me one moment. Okay, Jessica, everybody, can you see job search communication? Just thumbs up or nod ahead?
You got it.
All right, excellent. Thank you. And I wanted to make sure that everybody could see this. I'll make sure that Sheila and the team make this available to anybody who wants to be able to take a peek at it in the coming weeks or days. And I'm also going to make sure that many of the questions and things that I ask and discuss, I'm going to pass along to today's blogger to make sure that you guys could use those questions possibly later. I'm going to shut down my video because my computer has a tendency to overheat when I use a microphone and try to present at the same time. But well, let's get started and talk through a couple different things. And I wanted to start with a quote from Booker T. Washington, who you might know as being an author or an advisor in the late 1890s and early 1900s. And the quote is, "Excellence is to do a common thing in an uncommon way." And I really like that quote. It meant a lot to me when I first read it, because I always think about how can we go through building meaningful relationships somewhat in an uncommon way. And so as I go through today's presentation, please make sure that you have a mobile device close by or possibly a separate window open in your browser. I'm going to use a separate system called Mentimeter to ask you a couple of anonymous and online polling questions. So I want to make sure that you have a chance to respond to those if you wish. Here's a relatively recent picture of me and some of the things that I've done recently on the left-hand side. I started my coaching career back in 2009 as a second-year MBA student at the Thunderbird School of Global Management. And I was never a coach before then, but I really fell in love with the idea of coaching and helping people. So as a second-year student, I was blessed that I was able to coach first-year students at Thunderbird with resumes and cover letters, LinkedIn, interviewing, the process of networking and building relationships. And so for basically almost 11 and a half years, I've been able to do some of that. And as Jessica mentioned today, there's a number of things that I do when it comes to executive coaching and speaking. Also the book, I'll show you a picture of that a little bit later in the presentation. But my work really now is to work with organizations to redefine culture and to make sure that they're creating entire cultures of coaches, right? To make sure that everybody is coaching themselves and uplifting one another, right? Through emotional intelligence, asking the right questions, being great at listening actively, deploying Robert Cialdini's 6 laws of influence, which I'll dive into a little bit through our time. So what I want to do is begin our discussion with a few real world examples that we see in the media every single day and some of the outcomes of those particular examples and maybe give you a little bit of a background or an insight into them. I'm going to share a little bit about some of the ways that each of the generations are different, because it wouldn't be fair to talk about ways that we're all the same if we didn't talk a little bit about some of the ways that we're different. And I'm going to give you 5 ways that we are all similar. People from all generations are similar. So I really want this discussion to be about ways that we can find commonality across the generations that are in the workplace today. And I'm going to share those 5 ways in which we are more similar than we are dissimilar. So what I'm going to try to do throughout those 5 kind of key points is to really give you tips and tactics and tools to make sure that you can start and deepen relationships with people from different generations and really allow for you to do it in today's virtual environment, if you will. And the reason why this is so darn important is that if you've ever read Stephen M. R. Covey's The Speed of Trust or Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team or checked out any of the work from Google's Project Aristotle or even followed Brené Brown, you recognize that one of the key pieces of building relationships is that they have to be based upon trust. And oftentimes trust in having those kind of vulnerable relationships, it's really about depth and quality, right? It's not about quantity. So I want to make sure that we draw a distinct line there is that we're in the business of quality and depth of a relationship, not quantity of relationships. So I want you to take away from our time together today is that we're intentionally attempting to create feelings in the people that we are interacting with. If you do visit michaelsseaver.com and check out my website, at the very bottom of the homepage, there's a video there about emotional intelligence. And I'll bring up this point now just to kind of set the foundation for us, is that if you watch that video, you're going to learn about something in the human brain called the limbic system. And so what that is, or what it does, is that whenever we receive a stimulus, any type of sight or sound or smell or something we touch or something we hear, the human body first processes that thing emotionally, irrationally, and it does it through the limbic system before it makes it up to something called the cortex or the neocortex at the front of the brain, where it then can process it rationally. So be in the business of creating feelings for those people that you're looking to develop the relationships with, and you're going to be far more memorable. So I'm going to see, we'll see if my computer works or if it doesn't, but what I would like for you to do is go to, I'm going to put this on present here. You can see it at the top. Grab your mobile device or maybe open up a different browser, and you can go to www.menti.com, menti.com. And at the top center of the screen there, you can see a 7-digit code. So possibly on your mobile device, maybe it's on another browser in your computer, but key in the code 9147018. And I'm going to lead you through a series of 4 questions that you can answer anonymously. I can't even see your responses, but go ahead and choose one of the particular options. There's no right or wrong answer. You can only choose one. I can't see your responses, who responded with what, but I just want to get a flavor or feel for who's on the call with us today. And I'll try to customize my messaging a bit to that. So I'll give you maybe another 10 or 15 seconds to enter your response. And if you don't feel comfortable responding, that's okay too. Just we'll just kind of use this information as we're going through today's discussion. For transparency's sake, I was born in 1980. So I'm technically Gen Y or millennial. So I would fall into the 4th of the 5th categories there. And I do have a stepdaughter. She's 20 years old. So she falls into the Gen Z category. So we've been able to interact and help folks in some of the more recent categories as well. Okay, so we can see that the vast majority of us on this call today kind of fall into either the baby boomer or the Gen X category. So I'm going to try to make sure that some of my comments filter a little bit more towards you all. So thank you for taking the time to respond. Keep your mobile device close by, because I'm going to ask a few more things along those lines as we keep going. So I wanted to give you just a couple of examples of the way that the media, right, in America specifically, creates a little bit of a divide, right? It doesn't necessarily lean us towards some of the things we have in common. So I'm going to read the screen on the left, and then I'm going to ask you a question, and you're welcome to answer in chat if you want, or you're welcome to answer in the back of your mind if you want. But on the screen on the left, I'm going to read it, and it says, from Ernie, who is the uncle in this particular case, it says, what is the game? The same game as the college game or the politics game? The name of the game is Beat Your Father at Building a Better World for Your Son. Richie cannot accept the concept that anything so dependent on existing institutions can leave a man free to think and act as he pleases in private life. Yes, all businessmen I know are free thinkers and intellectually curious, knowledgeable, and more interested in making a mark than in making a buck. Now, from this particular article in this magazine, Ricky, who happens to be the nephew in this piece, he says, partly, I am lazy. I don't feel like working this summer. I'm writing a book and taking a history course at Columbia. Even the dullest art history book gives me a greater sense of freedom than being imprisoned in an office. I don't feel like being confined. I want my time to be at my own disposal. I suppose I'm spoiled. I'm copping out. So I want you to ask yourself, either in the back of your mind or feel free to answer in chat, what generation do you think Ricky is from? So either in the back of your mind, or if you feel comfortable, go ahead and place it in chat, whatever you think that the answer might be. I'll give you 5 or 6 seconds to respond or answer. And Jessica or Sheila, if you see any questions in there, don't be afraid to unmute yourself and stop me at any point in time, because I'm not monitoring chat, but just want to make sure that we're getting some good responses in there.
Yeah, Michael, I had one question for you.
Sure.
This has been a conversation in our family about generations. My personal opinion is that there is a new generation being formed around COVID, but do you know if there's been any definitions of, since Gen Z, any additional generations?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that they haven't come up with one, but I have not seen it yet. But thank you. That's a great question. Okay, so for those of you who either put an answer in chat or in the back of your mind, what generation do you believe Ricky is from? Well, it just so happens that Ricky is a baby boomer. And you can see that this particular piece or quote was taken from the May 17th, 1968 magazine for Life magazine. So I just wanted to kind of call out or point out, right, that in this particular case, what is the language that Ricky was using it to either describe himself or possibly Ernie or the person who was writing the article? How is it that they were describing Ricky? And in this case, Ricky is a baby boomer. Okay, another one for you. We got two more after this. So this particular magazine's quote is lazy, entitled, selfish, shallow, unambitious shoegazers who have trouble making decisions. They would rather hike in the Himalayas than climb a corporate ladder. They crave entertainment, but their attention span is as short as one zap of a TV dial. They postpone marriage because they dread divorce. They sneer at Range Rovers and Rolexes. What they hold dear are family life, local activism, national parks, penny loafers, and mountain bikes. So as you hear that, what generation do you think the author of this article is describing? So again, either in the back of your mind or key it into chat. What is the generation being described? Okay, it looks like quite a few folks. I am going to scroll through chat real quick just to see. A lot of folks are leaning towards Z, it appears, so with this particular one. So this particular quote was pulled from Time magazine, the July 16th, 1990 edition of it. And the author is a baby boomer, and the person being described is Generation X. Okay, so if you said X, you got it right. If you said Z or Generation Y or another, we'll try one more to see how you do on that. So this one's a bit longer. I'm going to take a little bit longer to read this one. But again, what is the generation being described? So this particular quote is, they have been depicted more recently by employers, professors, and earnestly concerned mental health experts as entitled whiners who have been spoiled by parents who overstoked their self-esteem, teachers who granted undeserved A's, and sports coaches who bestowed trophies to any player who showed up. As they've entered adulthood, they have inspired a number of books on how unmanageable they are in the workplace with their ubiquitous iPods, flip-flops, and inability to take criticism. Stories abound about them as college students requiring 24/7 email access to professors and running to mom and dad for help with papers or to contest a bad grade. A consensus has emerged that psychologically, they're a generation of basket cases, profoundly narcissistic and deprived of a sense of agency by their anxiously over-involved parents. In short, they're a nation of wimps. So what generation do you think is being described by this particular author? So whether in chat or in the back of your mind, it's up to you. And considering we have quite a few baby boomers and Gen X on the call. So this particular thing or particular quote came from May 28th, 2010, New York Times Magazine. And the reason why I show those to kind of begin our discussion today is to help you see the common language that was effectively utilized in the 1960s and the 1990s and basically right around 2010. And it just seems that from one generation to the next, the more experienced generation tends to have a perspective about the following generation that may not always be true. So if you happen to be a baby boomer, there's the likelihood that the traditionalists might have said something similar about you, or the folks that fall into the category of being Gen X, there's a possibility that the baby boomers might have said something similar about you. But what I want to kind of drive home is the point that each generation, especially the more experienced generation, in this particular case, let's look at this from the baby boomers to the Gen X folks, is that the baby boomers were the ones who had Generation X as their children. And so the baby boomers were the ones who basically created the culture or society in which Generation X was raised. And so I've always found it just a little bit bizarre that there's always this divide from generation to generation when the more experienced generation is the one that raises the next generation into power. So just be mindful of that, is that this kind of culture, this kind of background, or this kind of psychology of divide exists in America quite a bit, but it may not necessarily be true, right? And I want to take a little bit of time now to look at some of the things that we have in common. So one of the things that I think is really important is to think about how optimistically we show up, or how we show up when we're out there building relationships. So I'm going to ask you another Mentimeter question. And the question is can we catch emotions from the people around us? And so I want you to pick one of your choice, whatever you think it might be. Can we catch emotions from the people around us? Either yes, maybe, or no. No right or wrong answer. Just want to see what you feel. So quite a few responses have come in. If you happen to join us a little bit late, and this is the first Mentimeter question that you are seeing, www.menti.com, maybe in another browser window or on your mobile device. And then you can enter the code 9147018. It's also in the chat box if you would like. I have 2 more questions after this one if you would like to respond to those, but you don't have to. So for the folks participating today, we have a little bit more on the call with regards to being more baby boomers and being a little bit more Gen X. And for, it looks like the 19 or 20 folks who have responded, the belief is that we catch emotions from those people around us. So keep that in mind. I'll bring the slides back up. And those of you who said yes, you were correct. And so you can see on the right-hand side, the MIT Sloan Management Review in the latter part of 2019 published an article where they interviewed, on the left, Wharton professor, so at the University of Pennsylvania. Her name is Sigal Barsaid. And in her research, she found that emotional culture is actually contagious and that we can catch emotions from the people around us. And so whether it's a cold or the flu or some sort of a virus, those things can obviously be passed person to person. And now we have data that shows that emotions can be passed from person to person too. Now, we cannot see a Wi-Fi signal, or we cannot see the way that our microwave heats our food, or we can't see the music that we were listening to earlier before Jessica kicked us off. But those things, we can't see them coming to us or impacting our body or impacting our food, but they're definitely there. And so on Earth, there's something called the electromagnetic spectrum in the human eye of the way all information on Earth is transported from place to place. The human eye can only see 0.0035% of it. So the reason I share that with you is that you cannot see 99.99% of what's happening in front of your face right now. So that should be a sign that when we think about how we interact with other folks, especially those from different generations, it's important to recognize that there's an awful lot about ourselves or about their lives or about possible interactions that we just don't know. So in Sigal's research, what she found was that through surveying 3,200 employees across 7 different industries, technology, utilities, finance, that employees who reported being from a culture of companionate love, so being in a highly employee engagement centric culture, they had more job satisfaction, more commitment, and more accountability to themselves and to their team members. And the reason this is important is that if we're going to be uncommon and memorable, we have to be really mindful of how we show up to those interactions when we're about ready to start a new relationship or finding ways to deepen it. And so when we think about when we walk into a discussion, whether it's virtual or in person, we unconsciously pick up the social and verbal cues from those folks around us. So we think about or take into our awareness, their tone of voice or their body language. And so we want to be really mindful of the image that we then project onto the people that we're meeting for the first time. If you haven't read Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, he talks about 6 major laws of influence and the various things that we can do to be influential to those people around us. So don't be afraid to consider either catching a summary of that somewhere or possibly reading the book, because it'll help drive home the point of what Sigal's research kind of proves, is that there are many things that we recognize about those people around us subconsciously, and how can we make sure that we use those things to our advantage. So a couple of questions that I would like for you to consider asking yourself, and this is to something that you would ask yourself before you go into a conversation with someone maybe that you haven't met before, is that, are you about ready to choose language that makes the person you're talking with feel psychologically safe, right? So be really intentional walking into these conversations and saying, am I about to make this person feel safe? Or what do I need to do to make them feel safe? Whether that's doing some research about them before the dialogue or conversation, talking to anybody else that you might know mutually as friends and get some information from them about the person you're about ready to speak to. But how can you lead the dialogue in such a way that they feel psychologically safe with you? So as you're having the conversation or just after that conversation, ask yourself, can they see themselves spending non-work time with you, right? Would they really genuinely see you as being one of their friends? So we want to make sure that as we're having the conversations with them, that we have the conversation in such a tailored and customized way that they see us as being a friend. Another way to deepen a relation relatively quickly, especially if you haven't met the person for the first time, is to offer up some piece of information about yourself first. It doesn't have to be terribly vulnerable, but some piece of information about yourself first. So after we offer some sort of interesting piece of information about us, the person we're talking to is likely to feel safe to be able to reciprocate and offer something like that back. So make sure that you walk into conversations attempting to consciously create an environment where somebody sees you as a friend. It's important. So I want to talk just for a second about some of the differences that do exist within and across generations, because they certainly are there. But when we think about differences within a generation, maybe some of the people you've worked with before on your respective teams, or maybe some of the networking that you've done relatively recently, is that there are many people within a generation who have different DISC or predictive index or emergenetics or MBTI profiles or styles, right? There's a lot of different variations on how people communicate verbally with tone of voice and non-verbally, right? We can have any unique number of core values, right? And on my website, there's a quick 1-hour webinar about core values and understanding what your core values are. Within a generation, people can have very different motivations, from selfishness to selflessness to wanting to make a lot of money to wanting to really make a strong impact on one's community. Lots of different ways people can be different within a generation. Now, geography and local culture, also another one, right? What happens in the United States and in the state of Maine is quite different than what might happen in the state of California, right? So local culture and the things that happen day to day can also impact the things that we do, or in ways that we're different. Of course, religion and spirituality, right? Each of us might believe something a little bit different, but being respectful and honoring those things is, of course, important. Lots of socioeconomic differences. I'll give an example about that in a second. Maybe we have differences in languages, gender, age, ethnicity. There's lots of differences that can exist within a generation, but also across generations. So let's make sure we honor them in that way. But I want you to really kind of take this step back and remember is that when we think about these differences, they are key to building relationships, right? We want to proactively seek out conversations with individuals and people who appear different than us. It's through the opportunities to have the conversation that you actually can uncover a commonality. So when we think about differences across generations, just a key point is that in 1929, the American economy was only $1 trillion, right? So think about those folks who fall into the traditionalist category, or for some of those folks that were baby boomer on the call today, right? The economy back in your younger years was relatively small. Whereas today, as in 2019, the American economy was $19 trillion. So it was 20 times larger, basically in less than a span of 90 years. So the economy has grown astronomically, right? Technology has advanced tremendously with the advent of things like the World Wide Web and just different ways that we can use technology. When we think about the expanding consciousness, right? There's lots of different religions and things that happen across the planet. Ethnology recognizes more than 7,000 religions, and Wikipedia has found that there's more than 4,200 religions across the planet. So of course, there can be differences in belief patterns and structures. We also have a very different level of access to information. You know, those folks that fall into the millennial category, they are the most learned cohort in American history. And it's because they were raised at a time where they were starting to have access to the World Wide Web, right? We now have access to information across the world completely for free. We don't have to pay for it. So we want to make sure that we recognize that in 1994, Netscape was the world's largest browser. And now, of course, Google is, and Google right now has 3.5 billion searches per day, right? So we have to be really mindful that there are differences within the generation and across generations. But at the same time, there can also be commonalities within a generation and across. So we always want to make sure that we're recognizing that each person has a unique journey, and the differences are not bad. We should honor them as signs that this person is going through a unique journey, and there's really cool things that we can learn from one another, right? And so when we put on our learning hat, it really does help tremendously when we're starting to deepen and build those relationships. So I want you to be really proactive in seeking out conversations with people who appear different, and have it be your goal to, number one, make them feel connected to you meaningfully, like they could see you as a friend. But number two is that you treat it a little bit like a treasure hunt, and you try to find some of those commonalities between yourself and the other person. One of the fastest ways to build a deep relationship with a person is to find uncommon commonalities, right? And so that's an interesting way to look at it. So as I go through each of the 5 similarities here, what I want to do is also offer you a series of questions. And again, I'll give them to today's blogger so that they can be placed in a blog and that you can reference them later should you want to be able to gain access to them. So I also want you to remember that when we think about the human species, the way that it was designed years and years ago was that it was designed to help one another, right? So at our core, all humans have a need to grow and develop in our own way, right? We want to be able to learn through experiences. But the thing that's even more pressing than that is that we want to contribute to something bigger than ourselves. And so to start or to deepen a relationship is about, again, creating those feelings, finding those commonalities. But how do we appeal to someone else's nobler motives and begin to treat them like experts and say, I want to ask you for information. I want your guidance on this. I want you to be my coach. I want you to be on my board of directors. So finding a way to appeal to their nobler motives in a way that they genuinely want to offer their expertise or guidance to you in some meaningful way. So sometimes communicating across generations is a little bit less about having to customize or tailor communication, but to be able to be great at asking the right questions to uncover some of those things that you have in common so you can get to the point of trust faster. Now, I'm going to ask you another Mentimeter question, and it's, who do you believe is most credible? So snag your mobile device again. And there's some options on the screen. Do you trust or think that this person is most credible? Maybe you think it's an academic expert. Maybe it's a person like yourself, possibly a successful entrepreneur, CEO, or government official. Who do you believe is most credible? Okay, some good answers coming back. Thank you so much for responding, whether in chat or actually using Mentimeter. Either way is great. So you can see the way that it's working out is that we're kind of leaning a little bit towards with this group that a successful entrepreneur is credible. In second place is the academic expert. And in third is quote unquote, a person like yourself. So take a little mental snapshot of this particular screen, and I'll go back to my slides and share a bit more information about how this is important or why this is important. So the chart that you see in front of you, it comes from Edelman. It's something they do every year, which is called their Trust Barometer. And they're one of the world's largest public relations firms. And so they surveyed 33,000 people from all different generations in 27 different international markets, right? So they got a really diverse sample. And the question they asked these people was, when you're forming an opinion of a company, if you heard information about that company from each person on the screen, how credible would the information be? And you can see on the right-hand side, the government officials, the journalists, the boards of directors, the CEOs weren't rated quite so highly by these 33,000 people across the world. But if you look at the far left-hand side, a technical expert, an academic expert, or a person, quote unquote, like yourself, is really credible. Now, when we think about job searches and we think about building relationships, this is a big sign for me to take a little bit of a step away from some of the folks that you see on the right-hand side of the screen and pay a bit more attention to building meaningful relationships with the people on the left-hand side of the screen. And what do you do to ask the right questions of them and to remain consistent in following up with them or generating value for them in their lives so that serendipity can take over at some point and the relationship becomes meaningful. Now, many of you have probably seen shifts in society where we now look to Yelp reviews or Amazon reviews for lots of information about what products or services we should buy. You might have stayed at an Airbnb or a VRBO or used Uber or Lyft, right? And the thing that allows for those drivers of those homeowners to be successful is the ratings of the people who have utilized their services before. So if you happen to check out Glassdoor or PayScale or Salary or Indeed or Simply Hired or Monster, that there's any number of job search websites that have kind of the same functionality where we tend to look to other people's perspectives on a company or on a leader and to really look about and see, does it make sense for me to want to work for this place or should I go look somewhere else? So if you happen to be attracted to a particular organization, whether it's for full-time work or whether it's for something you want to do more philanthropically, I want you to find people inside that organization that you can genuinely interview or do an informational interview with. And if you're finding a company technical expert or an academic expert or a person, quote unquote, like yourself, that's ideal. And right, so finding those folks and having a conversation is important. So a few questions that might be interesting are, why do you enjoy your area of expertise? Or when and how did you know this area would become your career, right? Or this passion or this interest would become your career? Or how do you use your expertise day to day? So again, I'll put these comments, give these comments to the bloggers so that you can see them later if you want to be able to use them. Now, another set of questions for a person like yourself, right? Somebody that you're having some sort of dialogue with virtually is, walk me through your journey today. Or what are your most important life lessons learned? Or why do you continue working or engaging this organization? And again, the fastest way to build rapport is to ask questions of these people, let them talk, listen actively, and be able to pull out those uncommon commonalities, right? When you hear them say something that seems common to something you've done historically, that's where you want to be able to kind of capitalize on and have discussion. And that's important. So the other thing to recognize here is from Robert Cialdini's work around influence is that the law of authority, one of Cialdini's 6 laws, says that we tend to trust experts more than others, especially those on the right-hand side of the screen, because we think that experts offer a shortcut to solutions it might take us longer to identify ourselves. Right. So reaching out to and having recurrent conversations and scheduling time week to week to week to do these reach outs and to have 15 to 30 minute dialogue matters a ton, right? Especially in a world that's becoming more and more decentralized. Now, the second way that I think that we're all the same are possibly the 10 principles that you see on the screen. And so regardless of what generation you're from, when Jennifer Deal published this book, it's called Retiring the Generation Gap, and the Center for Creative Leadership did quite a bit of research and support. What really struck me about this is that these are ways that humans, regardless of age, regardless of generation, they are all the same. And what is really key here, especially for like number 3, trust really does matter, or number 6, doesn't matter what generation you're from, you really don't like change, especially if it's bestowed upon you. Or number 9, right? We all really enjoy learning. So if we know that these things are true about someone from a different generation, what can we do to create feelings or to help them solve specific problems? And it becomes another great vehicle for us to be able to uncover meaningful information about another person. So whether it's in an email, some sort of social media direct message, if you're placing it in a comment on social, especially like LinkedIn, what really matters is that we remain consistent over an extended period of time in following up and purposely deepening the relationship. So another set of questions that might be interesting that are somewhat connected to what you see on the screen, what is your favorite thing to learn about? Or what recent life changes have you experienced? Or what do you value in a leader and why is that important to you? Or do you have a coach and what has he or she taught you? So for me, the question that you end up asking is really a little bit less important than the fact that you're taking the time to ask it and allowing the other person to share a bit about their journey in their life. Humans are hardwired to like to be able to talk about themselves and their journey and their story. So if we honor their accomplishments and celebrate their wins and express emotion appropriately in celebration of the things that they've done or show gratitude and gratefulness for the things that they're then doing for us, it matters tremendously. And Robert Cialdini calls this the law of liking, is that when we can find common ground with a person, it's much easier for that person to remember us it's far simpler for us to deepen a relationship with them. So if you have a conversation with someone, be really clear at the end of the dialogue that you're going to follow up with them the next day with such and such resource or such and such thing to help them. But then make sure that you set a calendar reminder for 3, 4, 5 weeks later to follow up with them again and find some other way to add value to them, right? Whatever that thing is. But the trick is making sure that the value that you send to them 3, 4, 5 weeks later is really customized to something personal that they just said in the conversation to you that just finished. Okay. So constantly pulling on some of those personal strings in a really meaningful way matters tremendously. Okay. So that's another way that we can ask some questions to try to deepen a relationship. So a third way, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you see on the right-hand side of the screen, and this one is a big one for me because, and Sheila and I talked about this a few days ago, is that the aligning the generations on the left-hand side of the screen with one of the levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is my interpretation, right? This comes from Michael S. Seaver. This doesn't come from anybody else. So the way that I looked at this and tried to coach leaders through these things today, and maybe this will help you as you think about forming some relationships, is that as society has advanced and grown, especially in America, we mentioned earlier that in 1929, the economy was only $1 trillion. So be thinking about those traditionalists that are at the bottom rung of the needs, right? What was happening at that point in time in human history? Right? There was a famine, there was a world war, there was a Great Depression. And so the traditionalists, they were not able to have time to focus in on the growth needs because they were worried about basic life needs. But then as society grew and developed and they gave birth and had children which are now the baby boomers, the traditionalists had helped the economy grow to such a point that we didn't have to worry about war or about depression quite so much. But the baby boomers were then taught to stay focused in on safety and security. So now the baby boomers are really well known for wanting to stay with one employer for an extended period of time to really build up a pension or build up a retirement plan because they're looking for that safety. And it comes out of what it is that their parents taught them when they were young. Again, as society advanced and developed and baby boomers started to give birth to Generation X, what we saw with Generation X is that the economy had advanced so far again that Generation X was the first generation truly of entrepreneurs, is because the safety and the security at the second level of Maslow's hierarchy had been reached. So now all of a sudden, people were starting to be more concerned with, how do I form the right relationships? How do I spend time at work on things that really matter to me? So if you want to deepen a relationship with a person, recognize and understand that they can be at any level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs at any point in time. And there's no right or wrong place to be at a specific point in time. It's just recognizing that we can go up and down this pretty quickly. So if you happen to read my book, I know that there was a period of my life at the beginning of 2019 where I very quickly fell back to the very base level of Maslow's hierarchy. And if you read the introduction, you'll learn a little bit more about that story and what are the things that I did to kind of climb out of that place and get back up to some of the higher levels. So just important to recognize that we all start somewhere different on this. We all go up and down this. And our work in trying to uncover someone's life and to deepen a relationship with them is to help them continually climb this ladder for themselves. So if you happen to be interacting with somebody who's from a different generation, ask them questions like, tell me about the community you were raised in, right? You're likely to hear many things that will help you do things for them or add more value to them later. Or you could ask them from your teenage years, what world events do you remember most vividly? Or you could ask, what values are you trying to pass on to your children or grandchildren and to the members of your community? So what we can do going into one of these really important conversations is we prepare questions ahead of time. We do our best to listen really actively in the moment. We take great notes as we're going through this process. And at the end of every conversation that we have, make a verbal commitment to that person, what you're going to do, right? And make sure that you really follow up with them about something personal that they referenced. It really does matter. So again, we all go up and down this chart. There's no right or wrong way. If you happen to be at a place right now where you're in transition between jobs and you're at one of those lower levels for yourself personally, I get it. I was just there about a year and a half ago. And it took me really relying on the people around me and talking to a lot of people and getting their counsel and getting their advice. And that was the thing that really helped to uplift me past that point. So please do not try to do any of this stuff alone. Please make sure that you reach out to any of the volunteers within Career Connectors or similar. It matters tremendously. Okay. So the fourth one that I'm going to mention here real quick is Carl Jung. If you've ever done a Myers-Briggs type indicator or the Myers-Briggs assessment, that originally came from Carl Jung. Now, Carl Jung was a great psychologist back in the 50s and 60s. And what I think I want you to take away from this particular slide or some of the questions is that you saw from the examples from Time Magazine and Life Magazine from New York Times earlier is that even over a span of 50, 60 years, we were still using the same language to describe the following generation. For some reason, we always talked about the next generation being lazy, entitled, or selfish, or fill in the blank. But we fail to remember the various things that shaped that generation into who they are, what they believe. Now, as an example, the millennial generation, there's a reason why they're so anxious and so nervous. And the research that I've been taking a look at, what it shows is that they were the first generation in American history that had to deal with the Oklahoma City bombing, or they had to deal with September 11th, 2001, or they had to deal with the different terror levels that were possible, to be happening inside of a school, or that there were armed police officers outside of a school. And so for the first time on American soil in almost all of American history, right, that generation was raised in an environment of constant fear. And they are 40 to 50% more anxious than the generations that precede them. And so the reason that's important is that what we see is that through that anxiousness and nervousness is that they stay in the athlete phase longer than previous generations, right? So my mother was born in 1957, and she made it into the statement phase of her life, or the statement, the third stage there that you see on the right. She made it to that age, or that statement phase, when she was 21, right? I was born when she was relatively young. But it took me probably until my mid 30s until I got into the statement stage for myself. And so societal events and factors matter tremendously when we think about why a person chooses to do things at a specific point in life. No right or wrong way. So we want to make sure that we're reserving judgment in any way, shape, or form. But when we think about how a person might fall into one of these respective stages, again, no right or wrong time, each generation is going to go through them differently depending on the context or environment. But what's really important to recognize is that whether we're going to have a group of mentors around us or coaches or have a board of directors, I want you to become really great at intentionally, proactively reaching out to them and setting them up and learning from them as much as you can, especially those folks who are further along in Jung's 4 life stages than maybe you are at this particular point. Questions that you might ask of them to be able to garner some new information that help you catapult to this next level for yourself is, what are your life's most important goals, right? Maybe you want to emulate them, or maybe you can help them accomplish those goals in some way. Or have you defined your life's legacy, and what is it, right? And what is that mission, or what is that purpose, and how do they live it day to day? And maybe you can help them in some way. Or as they went through their life, what challenges did they overcome? Or how do you help others do the same, right? We get a lot of meaning out of life when we help others overcome the same challenge we overcame for ourselves. So just important to recognize that there are these questions that we can ask to help understand why specific generations behave the way that they do. And oftentimes the reason is environmental factors and not particular to the content of their character. So the last Mentimeter question that I have for you, if you want to snag your mobile device, is what brainwave state are you in right now? And this particular question is, and I'll dive into it, but there's 5 options on the screen. There's 5 different types of brainwave states, ways that the neural networks in our brains work. You can see in the upper left, gamma, beta, alpha, theta, or delta. So which brainwave state are you in right now? Again, no right or wrong answer, just recognizing where you're at. I am sincerely hoping that somebody says deep healing sleep, but if you don't, that's okay. Okay, so it looks like for those folks who choose to respond, maybe you're choosing to respond in chat, that's okay too. So a couple of you are feeling expanded consciousness. For the person who just said delta, Thank you. I'm grateful. Most of you said beta. A couple of you said alpha. Again, no right or wrong answer, just recognizing where we are, right? So important to see that. Okay, so the vast majority of us are in a place of beta or alpha, and that's a great place to be. So here on the screen is a little bit of a description of each of those brainwave states. So back in 1971, a guy named Dr. Bruce Lipton got his PhD in cell biology. And so he's trained at or taught at the University of Texas, University of Wisconsin, Penn State, John F. Kennedy University. He's published a bunch of books. But in his research, what he found was that when he was applying what's called an electroencephalogram to the human brain as they were going through life, he found that persons between birth to age 6 are at the very bottom of this chart. They're predominantly in theta, sometimes in delta. But after age 6, the human brain predominantly moves into beta. So for those of you who said beta, probably where you're at right now. So that was a great answer. So what I want you to be really cognizant of is that our subconscious brain processes 400 billion bits of information per second, but our conscious mind can only process 2,000 bits per second. So the reason why birth to age 6 is such an important period of life is it's because it's when our parents are teaching us what it means to be human and how to live inside of a particular society. And, you know, we go to church on Sundays, or we eat dinner at 5 o'clock, or, you know, this is your grandmother, or this is your teacher, right? We're acculturated into what it means to be human. But the thing is that what people don't realize, and this is just starting to come out more and more and more, is that when we transition into beta, the various things that we learned in theta, we unconsciously, unknowingly repeat in beta. So the things that our parents taught us, we unknowingly, unconsciously repeat later and throughout life. And so we have to really be mindful and conscious of that. So if you happen to be trying to deepen a relationship with somebody, you know, ask one of the people that you're talking with, if you feel safe or comfortable, you know, what did your parents do that you find yourself doing? Or since March of 2020 and stay-at-home orders, what new habits have you formed that you didn't before? Or what are the things that you do now? Or when do you find time for stillness or meditation or prayer? You know, when are you making time for reflection? And asking those questions really does help that person grow and develop, but it also helps you advance in some way as well. So Jessica was kind enough to mention this particular book at the front of the dialogue, and you can see on the left-hand side a little bit of a graphic of the front of it, and it is available ebook, print, and audiobook. But I really want for you to take away is that the book, when I wrote it mid last year, I wasn't expecting to write it. Everything that I had lined up at the end of 2019 to do in 2020 in March very rapidly got thrown out the window, probably for many of you as well. And so I had to go through and rethink about what I was going to do last year. And so I redid my website and took the time to invest in this book. And when you think about career transition and you think about job search and you think about deepening relationships, the thing that allows for people to be more successful than others is really about two things. It's about creating feelings in the person you're interacting with, and it's about the consistency in which you follow up. And so this particular book is really 9 different processes that you can follow from beginning to end. You can do them alone. You can do them with somebody else. I've already had an organization in India and one in New Jersey ask me to lead a book club based on the book. So I have a feeling that more people will want to do that in some way. But if there's any part of you that wants to overcome loss or move through fear, if you want to develop your emotional intelligence, if you're looking to design a personal brand and find ways to live it, or walk into a new identity for yourself, there are processes in each of the chapters that helps you with those things. And, you know, I really did buy the book. I really did design the book purposely to help all persons move from a place of believing that answers come from outside themselves, that they can come from the CEOs and the celebrities and the athletes and the politicians, to knowing that they can sit in silence or in prayer or in meditation, and in conversation with God, they can find the answers. And so that's what the book really is designed to do, is to kind of come back to the basics and help you trust your own intuition to know the right path forward as you uncover the things that you're looking to in your life. So another picture of me on the left there. The one quote that I want to leave you with before maybe we take a question or two is that when I was a youngster, that very first picture that you saw on the slide deck was a picture of me, I think around age 4. And back then, Winnie the Pooh was my favorite toy. And so I found this quote from Winnie the Pooh. I think it's important. And the things that make me different are the things that make me, me. So when we think about networking, we think about establishing relationships and going through the process of really deepening a relationship. Sometimes the most basic advice that we get as a 3 or a 4-year-old from Winnie the Pooh can be really super applicable now to even those folks that are Gen X or those baby boomers that are on the call. On michaelseaver.com, which is the very lower link in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll find an interview that I did recently with the We Are VIP podcast. And Casey, the host, asked me a number of questions about communication across generations. And so maybe there's something interesting inside that podcast that you can pull something from. But what I really want to leave you with is that each of us does have highly unique journeys, and we want to make sure that we honor the uniqueness that each of us holds. There's much we can learn from one another, right? But being uncommon or doing common things in an uncommon way really helps to separate us from the folks that we are potentially, maybe competing against a little bit for some of those really important jobs. But when we think about Segal Barsaid's research, right, we're in the business today of intentionally spreading optimism, right? People are going to catch your vibe, if you will. So make sure that you intentionally show up to these conversations with optimism, with gratitude, with positivity, and become great at asking questions, and then intentionally, proactively following up in the coming weeks in a way that people really feel heard, right? And really feel accepted. So that's our work, is to ask those right questions and to help people and uplift them and create those feelings in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's on February 18th. I'm doing another free webinar. I try to do one free webinar a month. And the next one's going to be about how do you create an intentional or a unique personal brand. So if you visit my website and click on the speaking tab, you can learn a little bit more about that there if you'd like. So please do connect with me. Send me an email if you have questions. If you want to connect on LinkedIn or follow me on any of those other channels, please feel free to. So I've got about 2 minutes. If you have a question, I'm happy to take it. If not, I will pass the baton back to Jessica. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Michael. We do have a couple questions. I have a couple for you as well.
Sure.
I love that you're doing a webinar on branding. I think that is so important, especially people that are in their career changers or looking for their next job. So that's awesome. I encourage people to attend that. A couple things came up in the chat around the questions people can ask. So, with people in career transition and with online networking or interviewing, do you have any kind of tips or suggestions on, that kind of engagement? How do they better interview, or what kind of questions do they ask? Because you said that a lot. Yep. Around asking the right questions. We know a lot of interviewing and getting a job is about chemistry. And so having that chemistry by asking good questions and engaging, do you have any tips for us there?
Great question. And thank you. For me, I'm really in the business, especially with the organizations I consult with, about finding cultural contribution. And so I want you to be really mindful of not only knowing your personal strengths or your personal authority or even your personal core values, and intentionally finding connection between them and the organization's strengths, long-term plan, goals, their core values, their purpose or mission, whatever that is. And so the faster you can come up with questions or help the interviewer draw a mental connection between how you are a more, maybe the word's personal fit, right? For them to see the connection between your values and their values, or your mission and their mission, that's going to be a really strong connector for them. They're really going to like that. And they're likely going to remember you more deeply if you do that for them.
Yeah, our hiring managers a lot of times will, typically in the life cycle of recruiting, recruiters are looking for, are you experienced? Do you have the right job experience? And then when you are talking to a hiring manager, they're really looking for, like, do we fit together? And so one of our hiring managers tell us a lot, they didn't ask any questions, or they didn't ask good questions. And so asking good questions, digging into the culture and really understanding what that company is about. And that interviewer, like, are you looking them up ahead of time on LinkedIn and through it, and how can you connect with them that way?
Yep, that's great. It's, if you've ever done, there are DISC assessments and things like that that are out there that oftentimes have sections that say specifically, here is the ideal fit for you inside of a business. And so sometimes I will encourage somebody to go back to a DISC assessment, a motivators assessment, core values, and then to intentionally design questions that help for you to see that connection between what you value most and what's most important to you, and to see that it exists inside that organization too, right? That intentional focus matters a ton today.
Totally. And if you all don't know, Career Connectors has a partnership where we give you the DISC assessment at no cost. And there is a page on that, it's about 24 pages. And one of the pages actually says your ideal work environment. And so what Michael's saying is pull that off and talk about those questions, ask about those questions in the interview process, and really dig in how their culture matches what your interests are. So
you got it.
Thank you so much, Michael. I think that's our questions for now, but you have many ways to get a hold of Michael if you need him. Yeah, the virtual clap. Could everyone just like, woo! Thank you so much, Michael. We really appreciate your time and appreciate you being here
Of course.
today.
Yep. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. All right, guys, that was our speaker today. So we're going to move on to our hiring companies. And we are excited to introduce you to Robin Stanton. She's been the senior recruiter at Cenlar FSB for the past 3 years and has been recruiting for financial and healthcare call centers in the Valley for 25 years. She also recently got her SHRM, Senior Certified Professional designation. Congratulations, Robin. She likes to think of herself as a matchmaker. Her passion is to help the inexperienced job seeker identify the qualities that set them apart and prepare them to speak to the talents in an interview. When she's not matchmaking, Robin enjoys spending her free time on arts and crafts and riding her bike. And you might find her out and about enjoying craft fairs, hiking, and enjoying special moments with her 2 grandchildren who are 5 and 8. Please help me welcome Robin Stanton to the stage.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm Robin Stanton. I'm a senior recruiter with Cenlar FSB, which is a mortgage subservicing company in Tempe, Arizona. And I'm excited to tell you today about Cenlar and the many opportunities that we have available here. Cenlar is probably the oldest company that you've never heard of. We were founded in 1912 and our headquarters is in New Jersey. We are the nation's leading mortgage subservicing company. However, because we operate in the business-to-business space, unless you have held a mortgage that was serviced by Cenlar, you probably have never heard of us. So a mortgage subservicer is the middleman in between a mortgage lender like a bank or credit union and the borrower, the person that holds the mortgage. Banks work with us and ask us to assist their borrowers and answer any concerns that they might have about their mortgages. In addition to our headquarters in New Jersey, we also have locations in Pennsylvania, Tempe, Arizona, pictured here. We have 2 different sites in Tempe. Our first expansion site, and then our newest site is in O'Fallon, Missouri. That opened in 2018. We are a privately owned company, an employee-owned company. Which means our employees reap the benefits of our company growth versus the stockholders. We are growing like crazy right now. We met our growth goals for 2020 in September, 4 months early and during a pandemic year. So you can tell we're really growing and we're continuously adding clients adding new clients, and we're anticipating 40% growth in the next few years. Whoops, click too much. At Cenlar, our people are our greatest asset. And because of that, we offer opportunities in terms of ongoing education and training. We have options both for in-person and e-learning that focus on developing our employees. We really focus on work-life balance. We strive to create and maintain a work environment that supports a healthy work-life balance. We also have succession planning tools in place. We strive to create and maintain a work environment that supports healthy work-life balance. We also are continuously identifying, documenting, and implementing strategies that help employees' personal development and career growth within the context of our evolving business needs. We have a formal mentorship program to help with an 18-month rotational program that's designed to prepare Cenlar's future generations of business leaders. We also are very active in participating in different community events. We have our employees volunteer all their personal time, often volunteer their personal time to participate in walks for various causes, to collect donations for community organizations and such. We also have various different social events that are ongoing, customer service week activities, Halloween decorating contests or costume contests, holiday decorating contests. So we're very active socially and really try to keep our employees engaged in their work. Our benefits here at Cenlar, we offer a wonderful benefits package to our employees. Excuse me. So we have health and wellness benefits, medical, dental, vision. We also have retirement savings. In addition to a 401k with company plans, we offer an employee stock ownership plan that is fully paid for by the company. It's one of the benefits of being an employee-owned company. We also offer career opportunities for advancement and education in terms of tuition reimbursement, and then training programs through what we call Cenlar University that we touched on earlier, that where we have opportunities for people to take additional trainings to kind of help develop them to grow in their personal development and their career development as well. And then we also, I clicked the slide too quickly, but we offer time off as well in terms of vacation time that is accrued. We have sick and personal days, and then we offer 10 paid holidays as well. So some of the opportunities that we're anticipating here at Cenlar, we have opportunities in terms of our call center mortgage servicing professionals in both customer service and collections. Those are kind of our opportunities that we have on an ongoing basis. We also have opportunities in our default area in terms of loss mitigation, claims, foreclosure, and bankruptcy. We have many different leadership opportunities, including some in our Arizona site right now. Within our call center, we have several opportunities. We also have support functions in terms of service excellence and research, where we have additional opportunities as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can really grow with Cenlar and really have more than just a job, but actually have a career. And we would love to interact with you and tell you more. I'd love to interact with you and tell you more about those opportunities. Here is how you can learn and see the opportunities that we have available at cenlar.com/careers. And then you want to go ahead, once you get to that website, you want to search by location. Either if you're looking at the positions in Tempe, Arizona, I know some folks from other locations as well in the chat box. So you can see the other opportunities we have at other locations. And we are working virtually right now, but we do have, if we do ultimately plan on having people go back into the office, and because of our corporate requirements, we do have to have you be physically located in one of the states where we actually have a location at. So even though they're working virtually, it's not forever virtual opportunity. Here's my contact information. I would love to hear from you if you have any particular questions regarding any of the opportunities, or I can help you in any way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robin, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jessica.
so many great jobs at Cenlar. So connect with her on LinkedIn, and also check out their website for the job opportunities. All right, Patrick Room, we are moving on to you. So welcome, Patrick. He is the recruiting manager for the military and veteran recruiting team and the operations recruiting. And in his current role, he supports the JPMorgan Chase firm wide effort to expand the diverse military, veteran, and spouse talent pipeline for all 5 lines of business. And he also co-chairs Phoenix Vets, Voices for Employees That Served, in their business resource group. Patrick himself, prior to joining Chase, was in the Army for 26 years, and he had multiple awards and decorations. He is a native of Philly and now resides in Surprise, Arizona with his wife, Gina, their 2 daughters, and 2 grandsons, and Jaden. Welcome, Patrick. So happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Jessica. As always, a pleasure to join your events. So real quick, my background, of course, is Army. I started here at JPMorgan Chase as a military and veteran recruiter. That's what I was responsible for. Now I'm responsible for more of our operations recruiting on top of our military and veterans. So just because my title still says military and veteran, I recruit for pretty much anything that supports our operations field. So please don't let the military email box scare you away. So, you know, we're large, we're a global company. We have 250K plus employees. So we're located all over the place. I want to talk about our Phoenix, Tempe, our openings that we have here in this market. And we have anything from entry level up to VP level positions. A lot of it looks for soft skills. Yes, we're a financial institution, but it's not always about the financial background. A lot of times we're looking for some of the soft skills that you bring. So don't be afraid by the title and what we do. We have many other openings. I could sit here all day and go through them, but just as a quick look, we have 111 current open requisitions, Phoenix, Tempe only. That's not counting our banks. So all our branches across the state of Arizona, I'm not counting those. So the big thing to think of is where you want to go. You know, do you want to be in customer service? You want to be customer facing? Do you want to be back office? We have everything. So don't just think we're bankers, we're tellers. We do have technology, not as much here in the Phoenix market, but if you're looking to relocate and you're in the technology field, we have them all across the US. Go to the next. You know who we are. We're fast moving in an increasingly complex global economy. Our success depends on how faithfully we adhere to our core principles: exceptional client service, acting with integrity and responsibility, and supporting the growth of our employees. You know, we're not trying to give you just a job. We want to give you a career. We want to get you into a place where you're comfortable and we're comfortable. Let's be honest. When I interview potential employees, they should also be interviewing us. And I say this just as a public service announcement. It's not just JP Morgan you do that with. You should do that with everybody you talk to. So always keep that in mind. Our website is listed. There's a military recruiting box. I am going to put my personal email in the chat so you have a direct email link to me. Feel free to add me on LinkedIn or any of my team. You'll see who my team is when you connect, and they're all across the US. If you reach out to me, you'll get a response from me or one of the 15 who directly work for me, because it's all going to be dependent upon what type of jobs you're looking for. As far as benefits go, you know, like any large corporation, we have the 401ks, the medical, the dental, the health. I don't want to sit here and just bore you with those details. I really want to get through to where you can reach out in the our individual booths to talk to us each separately. So with that, I am going to turn it back over. I'm a Cliff Notes guy. I'm not big on long talks.
Yeah, you Army guys are, and gals, Cliff Notes people. That's awesome. Hey, Patrick, I know you have 111 jobs corporate side right now for Arizona, but can you throw out some of them? Are they marketing, finance, that kind of stuff?
We have anywhere from auto underwriters, home lending underwriters, marketing, strategy, risk, compliance. We have supervisor roles in what we call our treasury, which is our corporate investment bank. There's lots of the gamut of what we have as far as the Phoenix Tempe market is pretty large. That's why it's hard to I could sit here and share this with you, but it would probably give you a headache trying to figure out what each one is.
Absolutely. So it sounds like most industries in some way, shape, or form are covered there. So thank you again so much. We really appreciate you jumping on today, Patrick. And Patrick will be available at the end if you'd like to chat with him for a few minutes. Thank you. All right, we've got our second Robin of the day coming in. Robin Urslin is over 20 years HR healthcare professional dedicated to helping those find their dream careers at HonorHealth. Seeking and delivering the latest best practices in healthcare recruitment campaigns, maybe successful virtual career events, and networking with our incredible community fuels her passion. Robin is a proud Phoenix resident since 1989, an ASU alumni, and enjoys her free time at her twins' flag football games, outdoor exploring, and can't wait to travel to new destinations soon. Me and you both, Robin. Please help me welcome Robin to our stage. Yay!
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that wonderful intro. Appreciate that. And I love that you've all joined us today. I will do my best to kind of, with Jessica's help and Sheila's, also kind of keep up with any messaging that you may have in the thread. And if we certainly want to connect, together afterwards, I'd be happy to do so. All right, so I am ready to move forward with the presentation today. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I hope that you can all see me well. It looks like my camera view may be a little bit on the darker side today, so I do apologize for that my lighting and it being kind of darker out, probably attributing to that. All right, so HonorHealth, we are a hospital system, here in the Valley. Some of you may be very familiar with us, or maybe have used our services or have, friends and families and loved ones with us here in the Valley. We are also a nonprofit, organization here in the Valley. So a lot of our company's mission is to really give back to the community. So that's a big focus with us. We've got we've got 6 hospitals now. We opened our 6th one just last fall, but we've got over 12,000 employees with us throughout the Valley. So certainly one of the biggest, employers here in the Valley. We've got a large team of volunteers, as well as also we've got 70 plus now and growing with our kind of primary, the medical practice offices, and also our urgent care locations in different specialty areas and facilities around the Valley, as well as also the research team, foundation, and also a lot of different community services that I mentioned. Some of you may be familiar with NOAA, which is our Neighborhood Outreach Access to Health. So NOAA is a partner with us, and they've got different clinics around the Valley, as well as also our Desert Mission Food Bank. Some of you may be familiar with that. That's been in the Valley for, gosh, I think since it started back in the early, 1920s. And it's kind of, grown throughout the decades and formed the Desert Mission Food Bank here with us. It's next to the John C. Lincoln Medical Center in Phoenix. So here's kind of just an overall picture. HonorHealth has, certainly been growing at a rapid pace, obviously kind of meeting the needs of the, healthcare needs in the Valley. So here's just a little update of where we all are, which also means we've got wonderful job opportunities at these various locations and also different types of roles, within the network with us as well. So I wanted to kind of at least just let you know, some of you, our main hospital locations are, the Phoenix ones, John C. Lincoln, Deer Valley, and then the newest one is our Sonoran Crossing Medical Center that was having some wonderful success. Even given the fact that, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, we opened our 6th hospital just last September. That's up at the I-17 freeway and kind of the Dove Valley, exit. You may see the big, nice, marquee sign as you're kind of driving, up north or south, along the I-17 there. We've got our Scottsdale hospitals that have been here for quite some time. And, we're the legacy Scottsdale Healthcare, hospitals at the time. So those, 3 are with us as well. All right. So I wanted to touch with you a little bit more about HonorHealth's culture. Certainly as we all, today may have, a wide variety of different types of feelings and different needs, and what kind of really resonates all with us is what we may be looking for, in a future, employer, or even if you're kind of looking out or considering, anybody within your network of, friends and families who may be actively job seeking, or maybe just kind of wanting to start to review different opportunities and do your own research as far as the different type of employer that you may be seeking. So here with us at HonorHealth, we certainly have, and last year really kind of put us to the test, so to speak, as well, as far as being able to really shine and take care of our community and folks that were coming from near and far who needed care with us. So here with us in HonorHealth, we really pride ourselves on the culture that's built on excellence, growth, respect, and equal opportunity, as well within our different workforce. With over 12,000 employees, we're very fortunate enough to have a very diverse population, within our workforce. And we need that, and we thrive on that, because that's really what helps us be more equipped to care for our communities, as well. We've got a lot of different type of, kind of community-based, sponsored, events that happen within our workforce, where we are either doing a lot of involvement with our own internal ambassador program. So within that program, you are certainly being able to reach out and kind of be a part of, either if it's Habitat Humanity, or maybe the Susan G. Komen Walk for Breast Cancer, or we're about to approach on February, which is Heart Awareness Month. So a lot of different actions that we certainly participate in that helps you really feel part of the community, and as well as also well connected with your peers, with us as well. A growing community as well. So obviously, we continue to expand our services out, to better help care with folks that are located in different areas of the Valley, as well as also kind of really expanding your own, career development needs as well. We do have a certified coach that's within the talent acquisition team that can certainly kind of help you if you're looking at, if you start maybe in one particular role with us, it could be entry level of some capacity or not, or leadership role. What does that look like maybe if you want to kind of grow your skill set and transition, those experiences over into different types of roles. So for instance, if you maybe want to start somewhere in the finance area, and then maybe kind of work your way and build up to maybe something a little bit more on the clinical operations side. We do have a wide variety of different types of options for you. Okay, and benefits. Being a team member of a healthcare system, it does afford you the opportunity to have some access to some wonderful, healthcare benefits for yourself, as well as also your family as well. Really kind of right off the bat, we've got some excellent, it's the health, the dental, vision, life insurance, it's short-term disability, it's, anything accidental, voluntary types of benefits as well that we offer. We do have a 403B plan, which, is just as a 401k. It's just HonorHealth is a, nonprofit employer. So we have a 403B, status, as well as also the college savings plans. And a big one for us is the tuition, assistance program. I like to highlight this because this is something that, certainly other employers, offer, but, please know here with us at HonorHealth that if you do come aboard with us in a full-time or a part-time position with us, you are eligible to use up to $5,250 each calendar year that you're with us to be able to go back to school, whether if that's at a university or a community college level, or maybe there's something that's more of a niche, institution that you may be kind of looking at, pursuing. So a lot of times we've got folks who may be recareering, or folks that are just entering, the workforce that certainly join us and take advantage of that opportunity as well. And other perks, obviously, wonderful paid time off, hours, vacation, holidays, sick days as well. We've also, due to the pandemic, have extended that, a little bit with our healthcare, workers, because obviously, they may get in a situation they may need, to have that extended time off themselves, or they may be in a situation they need to care for someone, at home as well. And I did want to share with all of you just a little information, and certainly if anyone's really interested, because we are a healthcare employer, I know a lot of folks in the Valley, may want to know a little bit more about, like, okay, I'm interested in healthcare, but what does that really mean, given the fact that we are currently still within the ongoing pandemic at this time. So there is a website that I put on here for all of you, and in hopes that if you wanted to kind of check out more information and what that looks like, and the different types of equipment and opportunities and restrictions that are put in place to help care for all of us and keep us at our best and safe as well. So for those of you that are wondering, that information is here for you. All righty, so getting over to the careers, all of our positions, and right now, as of this morning, I think there's probably close to 700 jobs or so out there right now. So that's full-time, that's part-time, that's on call, or kind of as needed, or per diem. So all of those opportunities, you can find them all at HonorHealthJobs.com. You can search by location, if you're more looking for a role in Phoenix or Scottsdale, or if there's a certain hospital location that you're interested in, or maybe at a corporate or support services location. You can certainly look for those opportunities. We have a filter on our job search too that will help spotlight opportunities if there are a remote working position as well. A lot of our positions as of last year begin to kind of branch out and have more of a telecommute, remote location. So we have those opportunities indicated on there as well. If you don't find anything that you like, maybe right off the bat, that kind of suits your needs, you're welcome to join our talent community. And the link to those are at the bottom of each one of our pages on our career site. I also like to highlight our virtual career event. So today's an awesome opportunity for us to connect, but if you want to and really enjoy the kind of chat style virtual career events, we've got a couple of them coming up in February. So I've been kind of running those about every other Tuesday. So I do have the information on there. And if you want to message me or anything afterwards, I'll make sure you get that detail information too. We're really kind of open and consider it kind of an open house, style chat event. And I can get you connected with our recruiters over the different disciplines as well. All right, so featured career opportunities. This is just a representation of them. Please know there's many more on our career site. Some positions that you may see listed here as well talk about a transition incentive. So HonorHealth is certainly, and given kind of market practices, as of recently as well, we do have what's called a transition incentive bonus. It's kind of like a sign-on bonus, really, but we consider it more of a transition incentive because you're transitioning from one place of employment over to your new one. So we're helping you if you maybe have any type of, gap and loss of income or anything of that nature to kind of help bridge you, to that. So those start anywhere from about $1,000 to, I'll say, around $5,000. Could certainly be much more in our more specialty clinical areas. But a lot of times in those roles, it will vary. But we also are kind of looking in return, for some type of a longevity, with us, whether if it's 1 year or 2 years with us. So just for you to know, I just want to highlight what that term actually is and what that means for you. But a lot of different opportunities here with us. You certainly don't have to be someone within a clinical setting to enjoy and begin a career with HonorHealth in the hospital system. So we've got many different types of roles. I mean, if you look at like an insurance collector, supervisor, or within security services or the revenue cycle. I also have right now a customer service and a collections representative, role that we're looking at kind of doing some blitz hirings for about maybe around 10 people or so. I think they're looking to add to their team. So many different opportunities, also our logistics and supply chain, and then also various roles, certainly within the clinical setting. So if that's nursing or the allied health professions. So a lot of different opportunities. I hope maybe that you may take a chance to look out on our career site today. If you see anything that you're interested in, please let me know, or however I can help, you as well. I'd be happy to do so. And probably about time, right? Right, Jessica, am I doing all right?
You are good.
Okay. Well, here's my contact information. You're more than welcome to find me at any time on, LinkedIn, and I'll just kind of put my email, in the chat here for everyone so we can connect afterwards. But I really, appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you and hope to be able to help you out in the future as you're doing your career searching. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Robin, for being here today. Gosh, oh my gosh, I didn't know you had that many jobs. Holy cow.
No.
You guys, you and your team are busy right now, it sounds like. All right, well, thank you for being here. Robin will be available at the end again. And so I'd like to go over a couple resources for you guys before we end today and move into our breakout rooms. First of all, we're going to ask you to provide some feedback. So Sheila Coulomb is going to launch a poll. And if you could just answer quickly, it will go away as soon as you click your answer. So the first one is up. The registration was easy. If you agree with that, hit yes. If you had a hard time registering, hit no. And so we're doing the best we can in this virtual environment to get your feedback. If you have additional written feedback you'd like to give us, we encourage you to shoot us an email at contact@careerconnectors.org. And we would love to hear any feedback you have from companies that you're looking for, topics and speakers that you recommend, those kind of things. All right, we want to say thank you to all of our corporate partners. These corporate partners make this event happen. And so last year and through 2021 still, it's been a tough year to fund our budget in our typical format that we've been able to do that. So many of you have increased donations. Thank you so much. And then we've had some corporate partners step up and help. So we were able to continue this program and convert it into the virtual environment until a time that is safe where we can start doing some on-site live events again. But we intend to keep these virtual events as well. All right, some additional resources for you with our partners, bestcompaniesaz.com. You can go /resources and they have a list of verified hiring companies. And so go on there. There's about 65, 70 with profiles and job listings. And then on the bottom half of that screen is an additional 100 or so companies that are hiring as well. And that's through our partnership with Arizona at Work. And so take a look, there's lots of resources, there's even employer resources. And we worked with Best Companies AZ to get those resources available for you guys. Okay, so Michael mentioned that there was he mentioned something about a DISC assessment. And so I had let you all know that there is a no cost to you DISC assessment available. Go on into our careerconnectors.org website. If you go to the resources tab, you're going to find all these things. And so /DISC will get you right to that DISC. It's going to ask you some information. You can upload a resume if you want to go into a talent database, but then you fill out the assessment, 10 minutes or so, and you'll get a 24-page assessment back that tells you a lot about yourself, that tells you your ideal work environment, your communication style, etc. And so it's really good information for you to have, especially as you're going through this transition. We also have a blogger that's volunteering today. And so writing quickly all the content from Michael and our hiring companies, and that'll be posted on our website in the next couple days. You can also connect with us in all of our different social media formats. LinkedIn is by far the most engaging one for Career Connectors, where our companies are posting jobs, where people are having conversations, and we're also on the other platforms, Facebook as well. Okay, so here's our upcoming schedule. We are back February 11th, and Christy Staub is back. Christy is one of the most exciting, fun, and resourceful presenters we have. She's talking about be a diamond in the rough, how to forge through the fire and land your next job. She's going to give you real specific tips on moving forward in your job search. And we have ADOT, Upgrade, and Dexcom as our hiring companies that day. And then Carmen is going to be here on February 25th with Interviewing with Confidence. And we have Hacienda Healthcare, LGE Design Build, Cable One, and Freedom Financial Network as our hiring companies that day. And then Thursday, March 4th, we're gonna really be diving in more on your strengths. So activating your strengths. And this will come with an assessment that you are also given at no cost. Stephanie Clerget is an expert in this field, and she is gonna be speaking on that on March 4th. So ADP is our hiring company on that day. All right, if you are a veteran, or if you are a previous veteran, a trailing spouse, which that's the official word, trailing spouse of a veteran, so you travel with your spouse, there is a virtual career fair by Recruit Military today, starting at 11 a.m. Take a picture of that URL if you are interested. We also sent out an email yesterday, I believe, with the link to the event. So that goes 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., where there'll be thousands of job opportunities, companies on the line, and you'll get to see all those different companies that are featuring and hiring for veterans. All right, we have another virtual Career Connectors event. This one is with the City of Tempe Economic Development Department. We are also working with Pipeline AZ, Best Companies AZ, and Arizona at Work, Maricopa County, to run virtual job fairs. And March 16th is the next one. And we are booking companies right now. We just had one on Tuesday, and we had 13 companies there with over 700 job opportunities. That replay is also going to be available on our website. If it's not there yet, it will be. But March 16th is another one where you need to go in, register, tempe.gov/jobs. You can take a screenshot if you want, but it's tempe.gov/job fairs. And Sheila will drop it in the chat as well. And so you'll register for that event, but here's the cool thing and a unique thing about that event. Not only where there'll be about 12 companies that day available, but you will be able to, when you submit your stuff for this event, Pipeline AZ is going to be matching you with different job opportunities and working on getting interviews before and after the event. So it's another cool feature that we're offering that we figured out how to do with Pipeline AZ. All right, so there's a lot of virtual events coming up and available for you. But how about this, you guys? Do you need a new photo? We are working with Gordon Murray from Flash Photography to offer you no-cost business portraits, headshots that can go onto your LinkedIn profile. He has been so awesome because normally we can provide these at our events, but because we're not having live events, he is doing them around the valley. And so he's moving around the valley every week or so and offering these. The next one is February 3rd in Northwest Phoenix. And then he is moving around to the other locations as well. So get in contact with him and he will get that scheduled for you. Again, no cost to do that. He does take donations if you'd like to give him a donation, but no pressure to do so. All right, sign up for our e-update if you're not getting it, careerconnectors.org. These are our weekly emails that tell you about what events are coming up. We also on our website have 3 different areas where you can engage with us. The webinar from today will be posted under CC webinar, as you can see that. In fact, that picture of in that block is Christy Staub. And so I think she was one of our first presenters last year when we went all virtual. So she's the one that'll be speaking. And then I have some other job tips in the career chat. And then we have some interviews, community updates available in there as well. Thank you to our awesome volunteers. Believe it or not, it still takes an army to make this happen, even in the virtual world. So thank you to everyone that's volunteering, that's coaching, that was our Zoom support today. We're so grateful that you guys are here and supporting this program. Also, as I had mentioned before, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. And so if you are interested, and maybe after you land a great job, we would really appreciate any donations. We literally barely made it in 2020. And that was because some people stepped up and gave donations that had never given before. So we're so grateful for that. it costs us $42 per person to run these events. And so if you can just think about that, and if you would be able to give back the $42 after you land, that would be, we would just so be grateful for that. All right, so you guys, what's going to happen now after I close this out is Sheila Coulomb is going to jump on the call. Sheila is our director of operations, director of everything, basically. She runs the full back office, our volunteers, the technology. And so what she's going to do is pop on the call in just a minute, and she is going to walk you through how to go off into these breakout rooms with our hiring companies and our coaches. And so we have coaches for many different things, and Sheila's going to walk you through that. So I just want to say thank you so much for attending today. We are glad you are here. We are glad you joined us today. And if you're in career transition, we understand. Some of us have been through it as well. Most, actually all of us, on all the volunteers and the staff have been through it in some capacity. Our story is not the same as yours, and yours is not the same as ours, of course. But we hear it, and we know how important this work is, and we want you to be able to find a great job. So we are here to support you in that. And I want you to know that myself and my team, we are praying for you, that you do land into the career of your dreams. And thank you for attending today.